Hi guys! This is chapter 4 of my book. As always, don't re-upload my stuff, and enjoy! Chapter 4. A woman came forward with long silver hair. On her head was a golden crowned circlet with a purple stone set into it. Her dress was long with a light purple color. She wore over this a white cloak with golden shoulder pieces, and a chain necklace with a purple stone set into it also. Her eyes were fully white. She spoke in a calm, gentle voice. "Come, child, your time draws near." Her form changed into that of a young lady with short reddish-brown hair. She wore a light coral shirt with bell sleeves matched with tan trousers and knee-high brown boots. She wore no crown, but had a necklace of thin white string and a purple stone at the end. She had her hands resting on her hips, staring out beyond them. Darkness came seconds after she changed, and from that darkness she woke. Dawn bolted upright in a cold sweat. She was in a makeshift bed in a small camp. Dillon was stoking a fire a little ways away from her. He saw her and smiled. "You're awake. Good." He closed his eyes and faced back toward the fire. "Now, could you tell me how you were able to sprout actual wings?" At first she was confused. Then she remembered the events of the day before. She returned the smile and threw the covers off her. She walked a few paces to join him by the fire and sat down beside him. "It's part of a special power that is contained within the king's crest. I am able to transfigure my body into any shape I choose, but most often it is simply used to fly." "Really? So how come you have one?" "My mother gave her king's crest to me when she died. This is really all I have left of her." She gripped her king's crest as she spoke. "It can also hear the voices of other king's crests." "Eh? You mean there are more?" "Oh yes, I expect that is why I am here. You see, there was once a prince of Polaris that was sent down to Earth. Some say he was banished, some say he simply left, but on all accounts he ended up down here. It happened many, many years ago, so I expect he passed this king's crest down in his family. That means his king's crest is still down here. It also means that I am able to hear it." "Another king's crest? Hey, do you think whoever has that king's crest can use it like you can? To transfigure their bodies and grow wings, you know?" "With practice. I doubt anyone down here has anyone to teach them how. I'd been taught my whole life how to use the king's crest to the very best of my ability. So no, I don't think so. Not right away, anyway." Her eyes were reflecting the fire. Dillon was staring at her while she was speaking, and didn't notice the stick he was using to stoke the embers was on fire. So when she finished talking, he waved the stick in the air, trying to get the fire out, but eventually just snapped the stick in half and threw the burning half into the fire. "The strange thing is, I haven't been able to hear it in a while. It was a clear call a few days ago, but now there's a sort of buzzing in my ears." She tucked her hair behind her ear. "So, you know about my mom. What was your family like?" "Oh, normal. No, my dad was a miner, but he always said he wanted to be a pilot. He collected all kinds of toy planes and flying devices. He taught me how to fly a kite, you know." "That sounds so happy." "It was very fun. My mother worked at the nearby store. I would help her carry things sometimes, or I would stay home to care for my younger siblings." "You had siblings?" "Yes, a younger sister and a little brother. He was just a baby. She was only about 3. He was smiling, but it quickly faded as the flames flickered in his eyes. "It was my job to protect them, but it all happened so quickly. The mine was on fire, and so was everything else. I left them in the house to check on Mother, but she said to return to them, so I ran back. But just as I had left the building, it collapsed in a burning heap. I called for her, but quickly realized that there was nothing I could do, so I just kept running. The house was on fire, but I went in anyways. I searched the whole house, shouting their names, but there was always no answer. When I finally found them, I found her holding him, and they were both gone. Their faces were burnt, and their eyes were searching for air, but there was none I could give them. I got them out of the house and laid them beside a burning tree. I knew that Father was gone because he was down in the mine that day. I remember crying, feeling hopeless, helpless. I think I stayed there until nightfall when it began to rain. The fires were mostly out when I started and were just smoking ashes when I was done burying them. Dillon had begun to cry. What were their names, your brother and sister? My sister's name was Skye, and my brother's name was Colton. Well, Skye and Colton will be remembered, as will your mother and father. Somewhere they are dancing and smiling with my mother. He looked at her and saw tears forming in her eyes too. He wiped his eyes hastily on his sleeve and jumped up. Well now, this is no time for this. We gotta find Polaris and get you home. Dawn looked up at him. She got up too, but did not wipe her eyes. Instead, she permitted a single tear to fall. Yes, I suppose we should get going. Dillon set to work, putting the fire out while she packed up the beds and set out some bread for their breakfast. Darn it! We were supposed to cook some sausages I packed on the fire this morning. So much for that, I guess. Got too into that sad story. I'm sorry, Dawn. Oh, it's all right. Everything was done, and they were ready to start again. They walked down the mountain and talked on their way. You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize how much I don't know about my King's Crest. Really? Yes. I had a dream last night of a woman with blank eyes. I was afraid of her. She didn't say much, but I get the feeling she was trying to tell me something important. I've actually had a hunch about that crystal. I think it has the power to give life and make things real. Dawn's eyes grew wide, and she ran in front of him to block the way. Nothing has the power to give life. It was something that was taught to all of us on Polaris. There is no being on Earth that can govern both life and death. Besides, what could make you think that? I just noticed about the oil monsters. Dawn shuddered and held her arms close so he could pass. They weren't ever there before. I know because my dad would draw us pictures of everything we saw down there, and they weren't in there. I saw their eyes fall and disappear when we moved away. They also seemed interested in your necklace. I think you created them with the power of the King's Crest. But I would never do that. I was terrified of them. I would never make something that would scare me. Not on purpose, perhaps, but I did tell you there were beasts down there, the likes of which no one had ever seen. I think you were so sure of that you created monsters out of the oil, the likes of which no one has ever seen. So I made them out of magic? That's scary. I hope no one finds the heart until we do. It's 100 times bigger and more powerful than this one. A path wove its way down the mountain, waiting for eager feet to find their way upon it. The places where they had started were nowhere in sight, but across endless fields of gently wavering grass, they saw new places they had yet to find. They walked for a few hours until they sat for lunch. They made a small fire on the side of the mountain to cook the sausages and toast the bread that they had forgotten for breakfast. The sausages were hot and good on the warm bread, though they were slightly burnt. They said nothing as they bit into the good warm food. After they finished, they put out the fire and went on. The trail they were following suddenly stopped when they came upon a small cliff face with roots coming down from above. They could see the other side of the trail not far off, but to jump would be stupid and dangerous. Oh no! How do we get across? Must have been a landslide. Dillon crouched by the edge to survey the situation before standing up again and tugging on a thick root. Maybe we can use these. Is it safe? Safer than jumping. He gave it another tug and put a foot in a loop of vine and root. He slowly inched his way across the gap, finding footholds and loopholes to grab onto as he went. Every so often he would inch out with his foot to see if he could reach the other side. When he felt the ground, he went a little farther until he was sure he could let down safely. Easy does it, he said through gritted teeth. He kept on the vines and roots, finding new places to put his feet and hands lower down. He was almost down when a vine snapped, and he quickly hung on to another nearby. His body shuddered and his teeth were clenched. Again, he started moving downward until both feet were safely upon the opposite cliffside. He breathed deep, put his hands on his knees, and bent over. Then he put his hands on his hips and stretched with a smile. "Now it's your turn." Dawn knew she couldn't hold on like he did. "But I can't! It's too far!" She clutched her necklace, but as she said this, it started glowing. The vines and roots trembled and grew longer and bigger. They reached outward to form a bridge across the gap. She tapped the first root with her foot, but it did not budge. She took one step after another and crossed, unharmed, to Dillon on the other side. "Could have saved me a load of trouble." "I didn't. It's fine. I was only toying with you. But I was right. That crystal makes whatever you think of real, even if you don't think of anything specific." "I guess so. Well, that's going to be pretty useful. I wonder why no one ever told me about this power."
"Maybe they didn't know either. They probably couldn't do anything like that on Polaris."
Dawn nodded and took her hand off her pendant. They continued to walk on, not noticing the vine bridge was collapsing and returning to its usual size and shape.